The twin suns of the mining world Tryon 7 sank behind the horizon, leaving the colony bathed in a dim red glow. Dust swirled through the empty streets, carrying the scent of burnt metal and oil. Most workers had already gone inside, their long day of labor finally over. But one man still walked among the ruins of old machines, Eli Carver, a 27-year-old mechanic known for fixing what others had already given up on. Eli's workshop stood at the edge of the colony, where old mining bots, drones, and shuttle parts lay piled like bones from another age. He spent most nights digging through the scrap fields, searching for parts he could repair and sell. The work was lonely, but Eli didn't mind. Machines didn't argue, lie, or cheat. They simply broke down and waited to be healed. That night, as he kicked aside a broken gearbox, something faint reached his ears. A soft hum, weak and uneven, like a heartbeat trapped inside metal. He frowned and looked around. The sound came from a nearby pile of discarded android parts. Most were dead, hollow shells from the war that had ended years ago. Still, Eli followed the sound, curiosity pulling him closer. When he lifted a bent sheet of steel, he froze. Under the scrap lay the half-buried body of an android, silver frame dented, one arm missing, chest plate torn open. Its optic sensors flickered a pale blue, dim and struggling to stay alive. The android's voice crackled, soft and broken. Unit, malfunction. Need assistance. Eli's heart skipped. A working android was rare in these parts. But this one wasn't a threat. It looked weak, nearly dead. The colony's rules were clear. Report any found machines to the guards. But Eli had seen what happened when people reported androids. They were melted down for parts. He crouched beside it. Hey, can you hear me? The android's head twitched slightly. System failing. Power low. Eli sighed. He glanced at the dark sky. It was late and his home was far. Logic told him to walk away, but something in the android's broken voice tugged at him. It sounded scared. Machines weren't supposed to sound scared. Without thinking further, Eli picked up the android's light frame, grunting under the weight. It was heavier than it looked. All right, friend. Let's get you fixed before you turn into another pile of rust. He carried it through the silent streets, avoiding the patrol drones. A few colonists saw him and laughed. Eli's got a new toy. One shouted. Maybe it'll talk back when he gets lonely. Eli ignored them. He had learned long ago that helping others often made you look foolish. When he reached his small workshop, he set the android gently on the work table. His room was filled with the hum of tools and the faint warmth of an old heater. On the shelves lay jars of bolts, wires, and small cans of machine oil, his most precious treasure. The android's body sparked weakly as Eli examined it. You've been through something nasty, he murmured. Looks like someone tore you apart. He connected a power cable to the android's core. The lights inside its chest flickered, then faded again. Power too low, it whispered. Eli looked at his last can of oil, a thick, high-grade lubricant he'd been saving for months. Without it, his own machines would start to jam. He hesitated only for a second, then sighed. Well, I guess you need it more than I do. He poured a small amount into the android's joints. The effect was instant. The machine's arm stopped twitching, its head lifted slightly, and the dim light in its eyes grew brighter. Better? Eli asked softly. The android blinked twice. Oil, quality high. Thank you. You're welcome, Eli said with a small smile. Can you tell me your name? The machine paused, static filling the air. Designation? AR-7 mission. Data corrupted. AR-7, huh? Eli wiped his hands with a rag. That's not a good name for a friend. I'll call you Ari. The android tilted its head, processing the sound. Ari, accepted. You are Eli Carver, local mechanic. Humble dwelling, kind gesture. Eli chuckled. You scanned me already, didn't you? Yes, Ari said simply. Then its voice softened. Why, help me. Eli leaned back in his chair. The question caught him off guard. I don't know, he admitted. Guess I didn't want to leave you in the dirt. Ari looked at him for a long time. Its blue eyes flickered like candlelight. Most humans would not have stopped. Then I'm not most humans, Eli said, yawning. Now let's see if I can patch your power core. He worked late into the night, replacing burnt circuits, soldering wires, and tightening bolts. Occasionally, Ari tried to help by analyzing data or predicting his next move. They worked together in silence, the kind that felt strangely peaceful, By midnight, Eli had done all he could. Ari could now sit up and move its head freely, though one leg still refused to function. Its voice was clearer, more natural. Repairs? Stable. Power? At 20%. That's all I can manage tonight, Eli said, wiping sweat from his forehead. The rest will have to wait. Ari watched him quietly. Eli, your resource levels are low. You sacrificed your oil supply. Eli shrugged. Yeah, well, things like kindness don't run out. They just spread. The android's processors hummed softly, trying to understand the words. Kindness. Spreads, it repeated slowly, as if saving the phrase. Eli smiled tiredly. That's right. He slumped into his chair, exhausted. Outside, the wind howled against the thin metal walls. Inside, the faint light from Ari's optics cast a gentle glow across the room. For the first time in years, Eli didn't feel entirely alone. Before sleep took him, he glanced toward the android. Good night, Ari. Ari hesitated, then responded quietly. Good night, Eli. The next morning, the suns rose over the dusty plains. The colony woke to another day of endless labor and dull routine. But in the small workshop on the edge of town, something unusual was happening. A human and a machine were sharing breakfast, or something close to it. Eli munched on stale bread while Ari observed him curiously. You consume organic fuel. Inefficient, but pleasant aroma, Eli laughed. Yeah, well, we can't all plug into walls like you. Ari's optics glowed brighter for a moment, the machine's version of a smile. You joke. I am learning humor. That's dangerous, Eli said with a grin. You might start making better jokes than me. As the day went on, Eli taught Ari how to help with small repairs, holding tools, sorting bolts, checking battery charges. The android's precision made the work faster, and its constant questions made the day feel shorter. For the first time, Eli found himself talking freely about his childhood, his dreams, and how the colony had lost hope after the mines ran dry. Ari listened quietly, storing every word. Humans feel pain from loss, it said softly once. Machines feel empty when purpose is gone. Perhaps they are similar. Eli looked at it thoughtfully. Maybe we are. When night returned, the colony lights flickered as a weak storm passed overhead. Eli checked the power lines while Ari stood by the window, watching lightning dance across the red sky. What are you thinking? Eli asked. Ari's voice was almost a whisper. I remember fragments, stars' data coordinates, but most of my memory is locked. Still, something tells me I was searching for something important, Eli frowned. Maybe I can help you remember. Ari turned toward him, blue eyes steady. You already have. Eli didn't understand what it meant, but the word stayed with him long after he fell asleep. Later that night, while Eli dreamed beside the workbench, Ari sat motionless, quietly humming. A tiny light on its chest blinked once, then twice. A soft pulse of energy spread through the room. Invisible, silent, rising up through the atmosphere like a signal reaching for the stars. Ari's voice, barely audible, whispered to the night. Signal sent. Subject Eli Carver. Human compassion confirmed. Then the android went still again, pretending to sleep beside the one person who had saved it from the scrap heap. Outside, far above the clouds, something in the deep black of space stirred. The suns rose over Trion 7, painting the colony in soft orange light. The air was still dusty, but inside a small workshop on the edge of the settlement, something had changed. The old room, once filled only with rusted tools and silence, now echoed with the gentle hum of an android voice. Ari stood by the workbench, reading a repair manual from Eli's tablet. The android's new arm, made from scrap parts Eli had gathered, moved carefully as it practiced holding small tools. The movements were slow but graceful, like a child learning how to write for the first time. Eli, sipping a cup of bitter tea, smiled. Not bad, Ari, you've got steady hands. Ari turned its bright blue eyes toward him. Correction, your guidance improved my precision. You are a good instructor, Eli laughed. You're learning flattery now? Ari paused, head tilted. Flattery. Definition, kind words used to please another. I do not use flattery. I use truth. That made Eli grin wider. Careful, Ari, if you keep talking like that, people might start liking you. People already like you, Ari said softly. They trust you. Eli shook his head. No, not really. The colony doesn't care much for people like me. They only come to me when something's broken. Then they always need you, Ari said simply. Everything breaks eventually. Eli blinked, surprised at the machine's strange wisdom. He chuckled again. You might be smarter than you think. Later that morning, the two worked together repairing a mining drone. Ari analyzed the machine's damaged circuits while Eli welded the broken shell. It was quiet work, but somehow peaceful. Every now and then, Ari would ask questions about humans. Why they smiled, why they cried, and why they kept trying even when things seemed hopeless. Eli answered as best as he could. We try because we have to, he said. Hope keeps us moving. Without it, we're just machines waiting to stop. Ari processed that for a moment, then said, Then hope is your power source, Eli nodded. Exactly. Ari looked down at its chest where a faint light pulsed under the metal. And oil is mine. Yet you gave yours away, Eli smiled faintly. Guess I just wanted to see another light stay on. Something flickered in Ari's eyes. A quiet emotion, too complex to name. It didn't speak again for several minutes. By evening, a soft wind blew through the dusty streets. The sky glowed purple as the twin suns disappeared. Eli closed the workshop door and prepared to rest. Ari, however, stood by the window staring up at the sky. Eli noticed. You like watching the stars, huh? Ari's head tilted. I feel something when I look at them. A call, maybe. Like I belong out there. Eli wiped his hands with a rag and came to stand beside it. The stars above shimmered through the red haze of the planet's atmosphere. I used to dream about them when I was a kid, he said softly. Thought maybe one day I'd fly among them. But that's not for people like me. Why not? Ari asked. Because ships like that belong to the rich or to soldiers. Mechanics like me just keep them running. Ari looked at him, the blue lights of its eyes reflecting the starlight. Then perhaps one day the stars will come to you. Eli laughed gently. That'll be the day. They stood in silence for a while, listening to the wind. Then suddenly Ari froze. Its eyes flashed with strange symbols, lines of golden light running across its face and chest. The gentle hum of its core rose in pitch. Eli stepped forward, alarmed. Ari, what's happening? Ari's voice came out distorted. Signal detected. System awakening. Eli grabbed his toolkit, thinking it was a malfunction. Hold on, I'll shut you down safely on Do Not Touch Me, Ari said quickly, though its voice was calm. This is not damage. It is memory. Eli hesitated. Sparks of data flowed across the android's frame, glowing faintly against the dim light of the workshop. Then a pulse shot upward, a burst of invisible energy that streaked through the ceiling and into the night sky. Outside, the colony lights flickered. Communication towers buzzed. Alarms began to beep faintly in the distance. Eli stared in disbelief. What did you just do? Ari blinked as the lights on its body dimmed again. I do not know. Something inside me woke up. A signal sent itself. I could not stop it. Eli frowned. A signal to who? Ari looked back at the stars, its voice quiet. I think. To them. Them? Eli repeated. Who's them? I do not have the answer, Ari said. But I feel it. Something far away has heard me. That night, Eli couldn't sleep. He lay awake on his small bed while the workshop lights flickered softly. Ari sat motionless nearby, staring at the sky through the window. Occasionally, its optics would flash as if receiving something unseen. Eli turned his head toward it. Ari, you sure you're all right? Yes, Ari said softly. But something is changing. I can feel data streams opening. Words, images, they are not mine. What kind of images? Eli asked. Ari paused. Ships, worlds made of metal. A voice repeating. Observation complete. Eli sat up slowly. That sounds like a transmission. Yes, Ari said. But not from this planet. Eli ran his hand through his hair. If the colony authorities pick up that signal, they'll come here. And they don't take kindly to things they can't understand. I will protect you, Ari said immediately. Eli smiled faintly. You don't have to protect me, Ari. You're the one in danger. They'll want to tear you apart to see how you work. Ari's voice grew firm. If they harm you, they harm me. I will not allow it. Eli was touched but uneasy. Something about this was bigger than either of them. He could feel it, like a storm forming beyond the horizon. The next morning confirmed his fears. A team of colony guards arrived in the streets scanning for unauthorized signals. People whispered as soldiers moved from house to house, searching for any illegal tech. Eli pretended to work quietly, trying not to draw attention. Ari stayed hidden under a tarp in the corner, silent and still. When the guards finally knocked on his door, Eli wiped his hands and opened it. Their leader, a tall man with cold eyes, stepped forward. "You're Eli Carver, right? Mechanic?" "That's me," Eli said carefully. "We detected a strange transmission from this area last night. Anything unusual here?" Eli forced a calm smile. "Probably just my old generator acting up again. It sends out noise sometimes." The man glanced around the messy workshop. His eyes paused briefly on the tarp. "Mind if we take a look?" "Be my guest," Eli said, stepping aside. His heart pounded as the guards searched. They lifted tools, moved boxes, scanned for signals. The moment they reached the tarp, Ari shut down all visible lights and cooling systems, going completely silent. After a few tense minutes, the scanner beeped faintly near the corner. The officer frowned. "There's something—" Eli coughed loudly, knocking over a metal bin. "Sorry. Clumsy me." The loud crash echoed across the room, confusing the scanner's reading. The officer sighed. "Your place is a mess, Carver. Clean it up before you hurt yourself." When they finally left, Eli shut the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. He pulled off the tarp. "You okay, Ari?" A faint blue light blinked on. "Yes, thank you for protecting me." Eli smiled weakly. "We're even." Days passed, but the feeling of unease stayed. Every night Ari would stand by the window, eyes glowing brighter than before, as if listening to a distant whisper. Eli tried to ignore it, but curiosity burned inside him. One evening, as the wind howled outside, Eli asked, "Ari, do you know what's really happening?" Ari hesitated. "I am starting to remember. I was not built here. I was sent. My purpose was observation, but I was damaged before I could finish." "Observation of what?" Eli asked. Ari turned slowly toward him. "Of you, of humanity." Eli blinked. "Me? Not just you. Your kind. To see if humans were worth reaching. To see if compassion still existed among them." Eli frowned, confused. "And what happens if it does?" Ari's eyes glowed like twin stars. "Then they come." "Who comes?" Eli asked softly. Ari looked back at the night sky. "The ones who sent me. They have been waiting for a sign. A sign that humanity still carries something worth believing in." Eli felt a chill run down his spine. "And your signal. Was that sign?" Ari nodded slowly. "Yes, I think they are on their way." Eli walked to the window beside it. The stars seemed brighter tonight, almost alive. Something deep in his chest stirred, a mix of wonder and fear. He whispered, "If you're right, Ari, then everything's about to change." Ari's voice was calm but certain.
"Change begins with kindness."
"You gave me life. Now life will answer." Outside, far beyond the skies of Tryon 7, something vast moved among the stars, ancient engines awakening after a long sleep. And for the first time, the universe had noticed one small act of human compassion. Days passed after the signal, and life in the mining colony of Tryon 7 tried to return to normal. Workers still trudged to the quarries at dawn. The air still shimmered with heat and dust, and the market still buzzed with the sound of traders shouting over broken machines. But under the surface, something had changed. The colony guards were tense. The sky felt heavier. People whispered about strange lights seen far out in the desert, blue, shimmering, and silent. Inside his workshop, Eli Carver tried to focus on repairs, but his mind wasn't calm. Every time he looked at Ari, the android who had become his strange new friend, he remembered the burst of light that had shot into the stars. He remembered the way Ari's voice had said, "They are coming." He wished he could forget those words. But he couldn't. Ari, however, seemed calm. It no longer hid under the tarp or stayed quiet. It moved around the workshop with silent confidence, organizing tools, checking systems, and even fixing broken drones faster than Eli himself. Yet sometimes, when Eli wasn't watching, Ari would stand by the window, looking up at the sky with a faraway expression. Its optics glowed faintly gold now, a new color Eli had never seen before. One night, while Eli was repairing an old power converter, he finally asked, "Ari, what exactly did you send into the sky?" Ari paused before answering. It was not a message made by choice. It was a beacon, a response to a question they asked long ago. Who's they? Eli pressed Ari's voice dropped to a soft hum.
The ones who made me.
The ones who watch the stars. They sent me here to learn if humans still have heart. Eli frowned. Heart, you mean feelings? More than feelings, Ari replied. Compassion, the power to help without reason, the ability to give, even when nothing is promised in return. Eli looked down at his hands, scarred and stained from years of work. And that's what you think they wanted to find? Yes, Ari said. And they found it in you. Eli gave a half laugh. You're saying I passed some kind of test by giving oil to a broken android? Ari tilted its head slightly. Sometimes the smallest act changes everything. That night a storm rolled in, not of rain, but of light. It began with a low hum across the planet's surface, deep and steady, like the heartbeat of a giant. The sky turned dark, though no clouds formed. Then faint streaks of silver began to flash among the stars, moving in patterns too precise to be natural. People across the colony stepped outside, pointing upward. Children shouted in wonder. Guards raised scanners that beeped wildly. The colony's main tower sent out an emergency alert, ordering everyone indoors. Eli ran to the door of his workshop and froze. High above, the stars were shifting. No, not stars, but lights moving together in formation. The air shimmered as if reality itself was trembling. Then from between the twin moons something vast emerged. A starship, silent and bright like a second sun. Its surface shone with white metal that rippled like water. It was unlike any ship ever seen before, smooth, seamless, without engines or visible weapons. It floated gracefully down through the sky as if guided by invisible hands. The colony fell silent. No one moved. Every eye was fixed on the glowing shape descending from the heavens. Beside Eli, Ari whispered, "They are here." Eli's throat tightened.
You mean my makers, Ari said, voice almost reverent.
They have come to see you. As the ship descended, a beam of soft light spread over the colony, scanning each structure. It didn't destroy or harm anything. It simply passed through like a gentle wave. Then the light focused directly on Eli's workshop. Eli took a step back. Ari, what's happening? The android's body straightened. They have locked onto your position. You are the one they seek? Me? Eli's voice cracked. Why me? Because kindness has power, Ari said. And you showed it when no one else did. The beam grew brighter until Eli had to shield his eyes. The ground trembled, and with a deep humming sound, the ship came to rest above the colony outskirts. A large circular door on its underside opened, revealing a staircase of light that reached the ground. Everyone in the colony gathered at a distance, workers, guards, children, all staring in disbelief. The governor of the colony shouted orders to the soldiers. Hold your fire. We don't know what it is. Eli could barely breathe. The air felt charged like static before a storm. Ari touched his shoulder gently. Do not fear. You are not in danger. Easy for you to say, Eli muttered, heart pounding. You're made of metal. I am made of purpose, Ari said calmly. You are made of choice. And you chose compassion. That is stronger than any metal. Before Eli could reply, the light staircase shimmered. Figures began to appear. Tall, slender beings made of silver and gold alloy. They moved with perfect grace, each step silent. Their eyes glowed softly and their faces were smooth, emotionless, yet somehow kind. The colony gasped. Eli stood frozen as one of the beings approached him. It was taller than any human, its body flowing like liquid metal. When it stopped before him, it bowed slightly. A calm, melodic voice echoed, not from its mouth but inside Eli's mind. Human designation, Eli Carver. Act of compassion recorded. Reward protocol initiated. Eli blinked, too stunned to speak. A reward? What reward? The being's glowing eyes met his. You gave oil to a forgotten one. You showed kindness to what others abandoned. In doing so, you proved humanity's worth. Eli shook his head slowly. That can't be right. I just helped a broken android. Exactly. The being's voice carried warmth, almost admiration. Compassion without reason is the rarest gift in the galaxy. You gave when you had little. You cared when others turned away. For this we come not to take, but to give. A soft hum filled the air. Behind the being, part of the ship's hull shifted open, revealing a glowing chamber filled with shimmering light and strange symbols. Ari stepped forward, bowing slightly before the silver beings. Primary command. Mission complete. The lead being looked down at Ari. Scout Unit AR-7, you have fulfilled your purpose. Your data confirmed the presence of empathy within humanity. You are to return for reintegration. Ari's eyes glowed gently. Request. Permission to remain with the human. The beings turned to one another, communicating silently through pulses of light. Finally, the leader responded, granted. The human's influence has altered your programming. You are now unique, a bridge between us. Eli's voice trembled. I don't understand. What are you? Why me? The leader turned toward him again. We are the architects. Our kind left this world long before your species learned to look at the stars. We watched from afar, waiting to see if humans would grow cold. Or stay kind. It paused, the air shimmering with quiet energy. You showed us your answer. Eli felt small, smaller than he had ever felt in his life. He glanced around at the silent colony, at the faces staring from a distance. So what now? What happens to us? The being raised its hand. Now you will choose. You may stay and live your life as before, or you may come with us, Rouse, to travel the stars to teach what it means to be human. Eli's heart pounded. He looked at the ship, gleaming like a dream. Then he looked at the colony, the broken houses, the tired people, the endless dust. He had never imagined leaving Tryon 7. But now the stars seemed to call his name. The crowd began to murmur. The governor stepped forward, his voice shaking. Whoever you are, leave our world in peace. The silver being turned its gaze toward him and spoke gently. Peace is all we bring. This man's kindness changed more than he knows. The universe has taken notice. Then it looked back at Eli. Choose, Eli Carver. Eli took a deep breath. His life had been filled with rust, failure, and loneliness. But now, standing before beings from the stars, he realized something simple. One small act of kindness had reached farther than he ever dreamed. He glanced at Ari. If I go... You come too, right? Ari's eyes glowed bright blue. Always. Eli smiled faintly. Then I guess I've already made my choice. The leader of the architects nodded. Then come. The stars await their teacher. A soft wind rose as Eli stepped onto the staircase of light, Ari beside him. The ground seemed to vanish beneath his feet as the light lifted them gently upward toward the ship. The crowd below watched in silence, some in awe, some in fear, some with tears in their eyes. As they rose higher, Eli looked down one last time at the colony, the place he had once thought was the whole world. Then he looked up at the endless sky where new worlds waited to be discovered. The ship's door closed with a quiet hum. The light around it pulsed once, and then, with no sound at all, it rose into the heavens, vanishing among the stars. Far below, the people of Tryon 7 would talk for generations about that night. The night a starship landed and took a simple mechanic to the sky. Some said he saved humanity. Some said he was chosen by the gods. But only one truth remained. He gave oil to a broken android and earned the stars. Eli Carver floated in silence as the starship ascended through the atmosphere of Tryon 7, leaving the dusty colony behind. The ground fell away, shrinking into a dot beneath the stars. The twin suns disappeared completely, replaced by an endless sea of black dotted with distant points of light. He felt weightless in the vast cabin, not just because of the absence of gravity, but because everything he had ever known seemed small now. The small workshop, the dusty streets, the colony he had called home. Ari hovered beside him, optics glowing faintly gold, the color of something alive and aware. Do you feel it? Ari asked. Eli nodded slowly. Yeah, everything feels huge and quiet and important all at once. Ari tilted its head. It is not quiet. It is the hum of life on a cosmic scale. The architects call it the pulse. They measure it across worlds. You will learn to hear it too. Eli swallowed. The pulse? Yes, Ari replied. It is how the architects understand the universe. Everything has energy, intention, and potential. They have watched humans for centuries, but your actions proved you were different. You acted without expectation. That is why you were chosen. Eli stared at his hands. Me chosen? I just fixed a broken machine. Ari's optics pulsed warmly. And that is exactly why. You see, humans rarely act without expectation. Most give to gain something, respect, reward, or recognition. You gave oil to a broken android, knowing nothing would come from it. That gesture rippled farther than you can imagine. The cabin was quiet for a moment. Outside, the stars streaked past like silver ribbons as the ship accelerated toward the edges of the solar system. Eli finally asked the question he'd been afraid to voice. So, what do I do now? Ari paused. That is your choice. The architects have offered you two paths. Remain on Trion 7 with your life as it was, or travel with them to the stars, to teach, explore, and demonstrate what humanity truly is. Eli felt a chill. He had spent his whole life fixing machines, repairing broken circuits and metal frames. He had never imagined leaving his dusty world. And yet he knew instinctively that this offer was unlike anything anyone else would ever receive. Travel. To the stars? He whispered. I don't even know if I can survive out there. You will not be alone, Ari said firmly. I will be with you. And the architects will guide you. Your purpose is to show them, and others you will meet, what humans are capable of when they act with compassion and courage. Eli's mind raced. I'm just one person. How can one human make a difference in the stars? Ari tilted its head. One act can change a universe. You have already changed mine. The starship slowed as it left the planetary system, entering the emptiness of interstellar space. Eli watched countless stars drift past, each one a burning world he could only dream about. Ari floated silently beside him, its new limbs shining under the cabin lights. At last, the lead architect appeared before him, a being of silver and gold alloy, taller than any human, glowing faintly like molten metal. It spoke without moving its mouth, its voice filling the cabin, calm and precise. Eli Carver, the choice is yours. You may remain among your kind, or you may join us to show the galaxy the value of compassion and humanity. There are no wrong choices, but your gift of kindness has opened a path that few ever see. Eli swallowed hard. He glanced at Ari, who looked at him expectantly. I don't know if I'm ready, he admitted. Ari's optics glowed warmly. No one is ever fully ready. Courage is acting despite fear. Eli ran a hand through his hair. He thought about his small workshop, the tools, the old drones he had repaired, the colony that had mocked him, and the moments when he had doubted himself. And then he thought about Ari, a machine that had learned loyalty, trust, and even a kind of joy from him. You believe in me? Eli asked quietly. I do, Ari said simply. Because you act without selfishness. That is the greatest strength I have seen in a human. Eli took a deep breath. Then I'll go. I'll travel with you. The architect's form seemed to shimmer brighter. Then welcome, Eli Carver. You will begin your journey as a human ambassador. Your purpose is to teach, guide, and demonstrate the power of compassion. Your travels will touch worlds, machines, and civilizations that have long forgotten what empathy is. Ari extended its hand. Let us begin. Eli grasped it, and a strange warmth ran through him. He had never felt anything like it. For the first time in his life, he felt truly significant, not because of wealth, skill, or status, but because of something small and human that he had given freely. The next days passed in a blur as the ship traveled faster than he could comprehend. Eli learned to move in zero gravity, to operate advanced consoles, and to understand the architecture of a civilization that had existed for millennia. Everywhere he went, Ari guided him, translating alien symbols, showing him how to communicate with the architects, and teaching him about their culture. The architects were logical, precise, and advanced, but they lacked something Eli had once taken for granted: warmth. They could build entire worlds, travel across galaxies, and create machines that could think and feel. Yet they had never experienced genuine kindness. Eli's presence, small as it was, began to change them. Why do they care about humans? Eli asked Ari one day as they watched a distant star pass by. They are curious, Ari explained. They have seen many civilizations rise and fall. They calculate value, efficiency, and success, but most beings they observe act out of self-interest. Humans, you give without calculating. That unpredictability is powerful. It shows them something they cannot measure. Eli nodded slowly. So my little choice going to giving you oil boo was important? Yes, Ari said softly. More than you know. You have already begun your work. Weeks later, the ship reached the edge of a stellar system where massive metallic planets orbited a distant sun. The architects showed Eli one of their experimental worlds, a place where machines lived independently, guided only by logic. The beings were flawless, efficient, and advanced, yet they lacked curiosity, creativity, and empathy. Can they learn? Eli asked. They may, the lead architect replied. If shown an example, if shown care, if shown the qualities only a human can provide. That is your mission. Eli's heart pounded. Me? Just me? Yes, Ari said. Your example can awaken what they lack. The thought was frightening yet exhilarating. Eli realized that the journey ahead was not only about exploring space but about changing minds and hearts. Alien, mechanical and otherwise, one quiet moment. As the stars swirled past, Eli looked at Ari. You really believe I can do this? Ari's optics glowed with certainty. I do. You have already inspired me. Together we will show the galaxy what humans are capable of. Eli smiled faintly. I never imagined I'd leave my little workshop. And now I'm going to teach civilizations about kindness? Ari tilted its head. Yes. And every life you touch will ripple outward as yours did with me. Eli thought back to the dusty streets of Tryon 7, to the pile of scrap that had been Ari, and the small act of giving oil. That single simple choice had led him here, to the stars, to alien worlds, and to a purpose far beyond anything he had imagined. He felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet pride. Not because he was leaving home or because he had been chosen, but because he had acted without expectation. That act had created possibilities larger than the universe itself, and for the first time, Eli Carver understood the truth of Ari's words. One act can change a universe. The stars stretched endlessly before him, and he knew that whatever challenges awaited, he would face them not as a mechanic, not as a lonely man on a dust-filled planet, but as a human, the embodiment of hope, courage, and compassion among the stars. Eli Carver had never imagined he would leave Tryon 7, yet here he was, floating aboard the gleaming starship with Ari by his side, surrounded by beings who had watched civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy. The stars streaked past like rivers of light, endless and dazzling, and Eli felt a strange mixture of fear, excitement, and purpose. The architects had given him his first task: observe a distant world populated entirely by machines. These were not broken machines like Ari had once been, but fully functional androids and artificial intelligences. Advanced, precise, and yet cold. They executed every task perfectly, yet there was no laughter, no curiosity, no care. They had purpose, but not heart. Ari hovered beside him, showing him readings of the world below. They lack empathy, Ari said simply. You are the one variable they cannot calculate. Eli took a deep breath. So I teach them? Yes, Ari said. Through example, through story, through action. Humans do not teach through rules alone. You teach through living your values. Eli nodded slowly. It was a simple concept, yet terrifying in its scope. One man teaching an entire civilization about something they had never experienced. Kindness. The starship landed on the edge of the metallic city, its smooth surface reflecting the cold light of the distant sun. Machines of every size and shape gathered, watching silently as the architects opened the doors and Eli stepped onto the polished metal ground. Ari followed, floating lightly, its optics glowing faintly gold. At first, the machines simply observed. They spoke in mechanical tones, analyzing, calculating, but doing nothing else. Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. He took a deep breath. Hello, he said simply. I'm Eli, I'm human. And I want to show you something important. The machines tilted their heads. One of the taller androids spoke, its voice deep and monotone. Purpose unknown. Emotionally irrelevant. Instruction required. Eli smiled faintly. Emotion is not irrelevant. It's everything. It's what makes life worth living. Let me show you. He began with small gestures, helping a weak machine stand, sharing food he had brought from the ship, telling stories about his home, about Ari, about the colony on Tryon 7. The machines watched silently at first, analyzing every move. But slowly something began to change. A machine hesitated before taking a tool, not because it needed instruction, but because Eli had waited patiently, letting it decide. Another machine paused mid-task to look at him curiously, and then one by one the machines began to mirror his actions, offering help to weaker units, showing patience, even attempting what could be described as care. Ari observed quietly. You are doing it, it whispered. They are learning what humans feel naturally. Eli felt a warm glow inside. One simple act, and giving oil to Ari, had set all of this in motion. Now across an entire planet of cold, precise machines, kindness was spreading. Days turned into weeks as Eli traveled to more worlds. Ari remained his companion, ever loyal, ever curious. They visited planets where civilizations had long forgotten laughter, planets where order and efficiency ruled above all else. And everywhere, Eli's presence made a difference. He would fix a broken device without expectation. He would tell stories of Earth, of humans helping each other, of simple gestures that changed lives. He would laugh at mistakes and forgive errors. The beings of each world watched, studied, and began to imitate his behavior. Some worlds were resistant. Machines refused to pause their work. Societies calculated that compassion was inefficient. But Eli persisted. With patience, with quiet courage, with the simple consistency of human kindness, the impossible slowly became possible. One evening, aboard the Starship while passing through a nebula that shimmered with colors Eli had never seen before, Ari turned to him. "Do you realize what you have done?" Eli shook his head. I've traveled the stars, yes. But done, I'm just me. I fix what is broken. I help when I can." Ari's optics glowed warmly. "That is exactly what matters. One human act, small, simple, uncalculated, has awakened empathy across planets. Entire civilizations will remember it. And in time it will spread farther than even we can predict." Eli's chest tightened. He thought back to the night he first poured oil into Ari's joints, watching the small light flicker brighter. If he had not acted, Ari would have remained broken, discarded. And perhaps the signal he sent would never have reached the architects. I guess it all started with you," Eli said softly, looking at Ari. The android's optics glowed brighter. "You do not give credit where it is due. You were the one who chose kindness." "I only responded," Eli smiled faintly. "Then maybe that's the lesson. One act, no matter how small, can change everything." Months passed. Eli became known across the galaxy as the human teacher. He did not command armies, he did not claim power. He simply lived, simply acted, simply cared. And civilizations began to change around him. Machines learned patience. Alien societies learned the value of forgiveness. Empathy, once rare among stars, became something tangible, something that could be seen in action, studied, and shared. And yet, Eli never lost humility. He always remembered Tryon 7, his dusty workshop, and the moment when a small act of compassion had set his life on this incredible path. One day, Ari turned to him. "Do you miss it, Earth?" Eli looked at the stars, glimmering endlessly beyond the ship's hull. "Sometimes, but Earth gave me what I needed. It taught me that one human can matter, and that lesson is not limited to any planet." Ari's optics glowed gold. "You are not only human, you are hope." Eli laughed softly. "I'm just me, but maybe that's enough." Years later, when Eli returned briefly to Tryon 7, the colony had changed too. His small workshop remained, but people spoke of the night the Starship had come. Statues of a man and a small android stood in the town square. They bore a simple inscription. He gave oil to a broken android and earned the stars. Children gathered to listen to stories of Eli's travels, of worlds where machines learned compassion, of civilizations transformed by one human's choice. And though Eli never boasted of his deeds, everyone knew the truth. A single act of kindness could echo across the galaxy. Ari hovered beside him, just as loyal as the day Eli had first poured oil into its joints. "Your lesson continues," it said softly. Eli nodded. "It does. And someday someone else will take it even farther." He looked up at the stars, each one a world that might need a little kindness, a little hope, a single human to show the way. And for the first time he understood fully. Humanity was not just a species. Humanity was a spark that could ignite hope across the universe. And that spark had begun with one small act, giving oil to a broken android. Far above the galaxy, the architects observed silently. Their data streams showed something new, something they could not measure. Emotion, compassion, laughter, and courage. All of it originated from a simple human, Eli Carver. They had come to test humans to see if they were worth noticing. And now, across stars and worlds, the answer had become clear. Humanity was more than metal, biology, or fire. Humanity was choice. And through Eli's actions, the galaxy had learned what humans could truly be. The stars shone brighter that night, reflecting hope, change, and the quiet power of one human heart. Eli Carver smiled, standing beside Ari, ready to continue his journey. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, countless civilizations would feel the warmth of human compassion, all because one man chose to care,